faster on the outside. Footsteps tap cool.
In 2017, Seaway Heavy Lifting launched a project to reduce risks associated with access by crane work baskets. Such access was crucial to the efficient conduct of their operations, but the technology had not kept pace with industry changes and rising safety expectations.
My name is Jan and I'm working as senior main crane operator by Seaway Heavy Lifting. And I'm working offshore in the cranes 38 years now. Storm is very good because before we had a steel working basket and it was a square one and it was welded and there was no extra protection for the guys to working a little bit out of the basket because it was flat, there was no green zone.
Stormwork is addressing four key risks, really. There's the integrity of the equipment itself, as a piece of lifting equipment that has to suspend personnel. There's the risk of impacts during the operation, lateral impacts in particular. And there's also issues of snagging when you're making manoeuvres with equipment, the possibility of snagging on some nearby structure.
Stormwork has an offset space between the contact points of the corner fenders and the rigid inner frame. It provides essentially a safe working zone outside of the device. We call it the yellow zone, and it's designed to eliminate crushing and trapping injuries.
My name is Nico Kukuringos. My function with Seaway is technical engineer, which consists of modifying and managing the project equipment.
My name is Mark van Gorth. I'm the operations engineer working in the operations department supporting the vessels.
we were reviewing our current work basket against the industry standards, and we found out that we had to apply anti-snagging controls and buoyancy.
The simplicity of the structure itself. It's a well-free design. It minimizes the number of components and the critical path. And another very important part is we make the inspection and maintenance process very easy. That includes pre-use inspection.
And then it's very handy to have such a device on board as the work basket. With the Stormwork, it's a light device, it's easy to turn. It's a very safe and comfortable basket, and the guys really want to work with it. We are using the Stormwork basket, and we are really happy with it. It's a good device.
Following its successful development, Stormwork technology is now available to the whole offshore and marine industry. Seaway Heavy Lifting and Reflex Marine continue to collaborate on projects to improve safety and efficiency in offshore operations.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. After a few months break, we return with Reflex Marine webinar series. We're very excited about the webinars coming up, and we look forward to bringing you lots of interesting and useful information on crew and cargo transfer solutions in the offshore universe. Today's webinar is scheduled to last about 1 hour, including the Q&A session at the end. All attendees are automatically muted to allow our speakers to speak without interruption. We welcome your questions. You can submit any questions via the chat box on the right-hand side at any time during the webinar. My name is Victoria Kalina. I am the media manager at Reflex Marine, and I will be moderating this session and noting any questions you have throughout. Our speaker for today's webinar is Ms. Sandra Antanovic, Reflex Marine's Chief Operating Officer. Unfortunately, our second speaker, Mr. Victor Suarez, was unable to join the session today, so I apologize for this last-minute change. Anyway, just a few words to introduce Sandra then. Sandra is responsible for global commercial development and strategic business positioning here at Reflex Marine, leading the opening of new markets. Sandra's operational expertise focuses on business transition, diversification, and strategic growth. So now let me invite Sandra to take over and talk to you about safe crew transfer options in the offshore wind industry. Undoubtedly a very interesting point of many discussions today and in the years to come.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for your time. I'll try to be as concise as I can so that you get the most useful information from this webinar. I'm not going to share my camera because there is a presentation coming up, and I think it's more important for you to see the slides than to look at me. For those of you unfamiliar with Reflex Marine, Reflex Marine has been specializing in offshore crew transfer for the past 30 years. Our core business used to be supporting offshore oil and gas industry. We started from Aberdeen, and the first market was North Sea. And then we spread globally. So today we are supporting offshore operations in over 70 countries on all continents. We work equally today with offshore oil and gas companies, LNG companies, and offshore wind companies. So our client pool is comprising from all energy sectors today. We have been working with offshore wind companies certainly for the last 10 years, with some of them longer. So today I will try to share best practices and touch on some projects that we have done with our clients where we supported the operation during the commissioning phase or during some other phases of the offshore wind farm projects, both in Europe and in Asia. So I'll start with the presentation. This is just an overview of what I'm going to go through today. So just some basic information on offshore wind in Europe. And then I'll focus in some detail on crew transfer and access for your personnel during pre-construction and construction phases in offshore wind farm projects. Those of you who have joined slightly early for the webinar were able to see a video on storm work with participation of Seaway 7 and some of their staff commenting on storm work as a work basket. Victoria will share that video with you in the chat box. It's available on our YouTube channel. So if you missed portions of that video, or if you want to see it one more time, we'll share the link with you so you're able to do that. I will also explain some operational features and basic information on storm work basket. And then I will touch briefly on some innovation projects that we are developing currently for floating offshore wind. And once that is finished, I will take your questions. Please do ask questions as I go through the presentation. You can ask them in the chat box. And Victoria will monitor the chat box. If there is anything where I need to be interrupted because the question is relevant for that specific slide. I'm happy to do that. If question is a more generic, then I will take it at the end of the presentation. Hope that makes sense for everyone. So this map is from DNV. So DNV is the source. It's not a brand new map. It's from 2020, but it gives an indication of the number of projects across the world. So number of current and planned offshore wind farms. There is an obvious lead from Europe in this energy market segment. With 92 active offshore wind farms and 70 under development. But then Asia Pacific is catching up quite quickly at a fast pace with 30 active projects and 92 under development. North America is sort of getting there, but of course, compared to Europe and Asia Pacific, the number of projects they currently have active, including the ones that are under development, is much lower. But I think they form an important piece of the puzzle on the global energy market. So it's exciting to see that they're continuing to move forward and keep adding new projects that are currently under development. This table is the source is Wind Europe, so it's just briefly showing the investment over the years. So for the past 10 years, how the investment in billions of euros grew almost exponentially. There were some drops, if you notice, in 2017 and 2019, but 2020, with a whopping amount put in the development of offshore wind farm projects. So it's quite exciting to see this curve and to look in the future and the next 10 years and try to anticipate how the market will look like in 2030, for example. Going back to what we gathered here today to discuss, so the construction phase of any offshore wind farm has different challenging operational circumstances. When it comes to moving people around, it's a busy and fast-paced environment, in many ways much busier than any other offshore market segment. So if we compare it to offshore oil and gas or offshore LNG, this is quite a fast pace, very fragile structures. So again, something different from other market segments. Very tight operational windows. So things have to be completed in a very tight time frames. And then the weather conditions, because of the location of the wind farms, can be a limiting factor. And then there are frequent crew transfers, both offshore and in ports. So the need to move people back and forth from different points plays a big role in the construction phase, pre-construction and construction phase of offshore wind farm. So these are the things that the operator and their subcontractors need to keep in mind when they're trying to figure out what is the best way to move people from different locations in the pre-construction field, and what is the most efficient and the safest way to do that. What I'm going to present today is one of the ways to move people. There are, of course, other ways which are being used and have been used in the past. We are confident that we are offering the safest option. So we do appreciate that there are other options to move people, but we based on the statistics that we have so far, based on the analysis that was done both by us and by third parties, one of them also being DNV, we are confident that we are offering the safest and most cost-effective solution for crew transfer during pre-construction and construction phase of the wind farm. If we break down the development stage, so we have, and then we can see sort of how people can be transferred for each of these stages. So for laying foundation, the crew transfer can be done by helicopter or using a marine method. I highlighted here marine methods because that's what I will cover later in the slides. During the construction phase, again we have helicopter and marine method, and then we also have an option of using a gangway, and that would depend on the size of the platform. For day-to-day operations, particularly when maintenance is being done, we have small supply vessels with bump and jump option, and then we also have large-scale maintenance vessels that are using helicopter or marine methods. Some companies opt for gangway, and marine methods are also an option here. So there is a variety of ways how we can transfer people during pre-construction, construction, and maintenance phase of the offshore wind farm, and I'll cover the marine method today. We always advise our clients to have more than one option available, so that they have a plan B option, so to speak, and then to make sure that they have gone through a risk assessment process to ensure that the crew is safe at any given moment, and also that they have analyzed the investment, return on investment, and added value for each of these crew transfer options, to make sure that they are having the most cost-effective option, but at the same time, the safest option for their crew. So now we get to the core of the presentation. Our clients are, I will show in a moment, main names from our client list when it comes to offshore wind projects. But our products are used on different types of vessels, from research vessels during pre-piling campaigns, on heavy lift vessels during decommissioning phases, and in many more other scenarios. They perform equally well regardless of the type of the vessel, of the weather conditions. The operating envelope for each of the product is extremely high, in most cases much higher than the operating envelope for a crane would be, and it gives a large flexibility to the operator and their subcontractors to plan the work scope, knowing that they have an option to continue with crew changes even if the weather conditions are challenging, or if the sea state becomes challenging at any given time. So these are the main names that we have been working with and are working with at the moment when it comes to offshore wind. With some of them, we have been working for over 10 years. With some of them, we started working in the last 5 years. But with all of them, we have a very good relationships, and we tend to work on multiple projects. So with none of these companies, we have worked on only one project. It is always different projects in parallel, and we try to provide them with the support that they need on each of those projects, and each of those projects has their particularities. So familiar names to all of you, I'm sure. There are plenty of more companies that we work with in offshore wind. I wanted to limit just on one slide and give you an idea of the most familiar names, and you would understand by looking at these logos who are their subcontractors and who else we could be working with. These are then, I took out of the previous slide, I then selected 4 companies, and of them I selected the vessels that have currently our products on board, and they're using them in different projects and on different locations. So I'm sure that a lot of you are going to recognize the name of the vessel, and you will understand the type of the vessel and all the details, and also you will know the projects that are where these vessels are being used. With Tenet, they are using 3 types of our products. So they have the old Frog range, the original Frog range, they have the Frog XD range, and they have Stormwork baskets, so work baskets. Deme Group also has the original Frog range units, the new Frog XD range, and they have been renting as well different products, including Stormwork basket. Van Oord is using Wave 4 and some of the XD range products, and then Seaway 7 has Wave 4 and Stormwork work basket. I will explain each product in a second, but this is just to give you an idea what types of vessels are using our products. This is a map with locations of where our products are currently used in offshore wind farm projects. Quite a lot of them at the moment being used in Europe, in different countries, UK, Belgium, France, Italy, Germany, Denmark. So quite a lot of things going on in Europe, and then quite a lot of things going offshore Taiwan. Our products are being used in 2 different projects there. We are currently negotiating the use of our product offshore China, and then in Mediterranean for the Taranto offshore wind farm. Also for India, I didn't mark that one, but we are currently in negotiation for one project there. And then offshore Maryland, the offshore wind farm where over 130 monopiles are planned to be installed. So the ones that have puzzle as an icon are currently being negotiated, and the ones with the yellow icon of our product are, the product is actually being used as I speak. You can see, just going back on this slide, so you can see that our focus from the beginning was Europe. We then developed quite a significant focus on Asia, on Southeast Asia and on Asia in general, with Jan de Nul helping us bring our product to that particular region when it comes to offshore wind projects, because they took one of the existing products that they had in their fleet on a vessel when they were subcontracted for some work for offshore wind farm in Taiwan. And then, of course, other clients were able to see the product being used in a specific scenario, and that helped us sort of get a grip on that market as well. The other negotiations are with existing clients. So, for example, for Taranto offshore wind farm at the south of Italy, it is Van Oord. So it's an existing client, a company that we have been supporting for several years now. And usually the conversation about new projects happens in a way that the existing client comes back to us and says, we are planning to get involved in this project, and this is the situation, or these are the concerns that we have when it comes to transferring people. We then sit with them, go through different scenarios, and evaluate what is the best option for them. Sometimes it is for them to purchase the unit because the project is a longer term one. Oftentimes the solution can be found by them just renting one of our products for a month or for 3 months, and there is no need for them to purchase it and keep it as an inventory. So we are sort of looking at the big picture and trying to understand what is the most useful for the client, not just for that particular situation, but in the long run. Oftentimes, the easier solution for them and the one that makes more sense from client's perspective is a rental rather than a purchase. So we now get to products. I did mention a few clients, and I did say who is using which type of product. So I'll now run you through each of the products separately. So here we have Frog XT4 and XT6. They're a second generation of our main product, Frog. The first generation had 3, 6, and 9 person capacity. The second generation has 4, 6, and 10. 2, 4, 6, and 10 person capacity. We have these two products on the same slide because they have the same footprint. Essentially, the frame and the base of the product are identical. The only difference is how many seats are inside the product. So the XT4 has 4 seats, and people are more comfortable, they have more space. Frog XT6 has 6 seats, so they're arranged in a different way. They're still equally comfortable because they're seated and strapped, so it's extremely safe. But the seating arrangement is slightly different compared to XT4. Here in the middle, you have the basic spec, so the information from what we call a data sheet. So the footprint, weight, safe working load, and then the operational envelope. You will notice here that the operational envelope is extremely high. So up to 4 meters significant wave height and up to 40 knots of wind, which would match any crane that is currently used in offshore operations. So the Frog wouldn't be causing the operations to come to a halt. Certain things like support vessel or a crane would come to a halt due to weather conditions much before Frog XT would. Both of these options have medevac capacity, which is extremely easy to put in place. You would lower the seat back in the same way that you would lower a seat back in the car. You would slide the furnace stretcher across that lowered seat, lock it in position, and that's it. You would have a medevac option of the same product where you can transfer an injured or sick person to safety with the least possible hassle and in the shortest possible period of time. To give you an idea of how much, for those of you who perhaps haven't used this method of transfer in the past, it takes about 5 minutes to do transfer. So it takes about 5 minutes for people to board the unit, sit down, strap themselves, for the vessel person or the person on one location to give all clear to the crane operator, for the crane operator to perform the lift, to lower the unit on point B where it's being transferred, and for people to dismount. So that on average takes about 5 minutes. I will just quickly go through the safety features of the unit. You can go to our YouTube channel where we have lots of videos explaining crane operator briefing, stretcher positioning briefing, user briefing, operational briefing. So we have professionally done videos on our YouTube channel that can take you in detail for every single aspect of the product. I'm not going to go into that much detail today, as we are trying to cover quite a wide area during this webinar. But they're short videos that can be watched when you have time. Victoria will share some of them in the link in the chat box, so you have the link to our YouTube channel. So looking at Frog XT4, you notice the yellow buoyancy. The yellow buoyancy, together with the stainless steel frame, is protecting the people inside against any possible lateral impact. So during the lift, if there is high wind, or if for any reason the crane lift was done in an unstable way, or there is a movement of the vessel, if that results in the unit hitting or slamming against any surface that is on the side of the unit, like a container or anything else, the stainless steel frame and the buoyancy would protect the passengers inside. So they would feel an impact, but they would be completely protected, and their spine would be protected against injury. You notice the ergonomic shape of the seats, the head protection, and the 3-point safety harnesses. So people are extremely comfortable, but they're also protected in an extreme way. The blue feet underneath the unit, together with the shock-absorbing damper system, are protecting passengers against vertical impact or heavy landing. So when the unit lands on the deck or on a platform or on any point or any location on the sea, this would absorb the impact. So again, they would feel the impact, but they would be completely protected. The sensation would be similar to that one when an airplane lands and you feel an impact, but you're protected. You can see on the top of the unit that the buoyancy goes curves on the top of the unit, so the head is completely protected from anything that might fall during the lift or when the unit lands or before the unit is lifted. So their heads are protected as well. And then because people are seated down and they're strapped, they're protected against falling out for whatever reason during transfer. Finally, in an unlikely scenario that something should go horribly wrong and the unit unhooks from the crane or from a lifting assembly and falls in the water, the fact that there is such a big surface of buoyancy, of buoyancy panels that are filled with foam, the unit would self-right and float, so people again would be protected while they're waiting for the search party to come and to rescue them. The self-righting of the unit takes about 3 seconds. So it will take 3 seconds for the unit. If it's inverted when it falls into the water, it will take about 3 seconds for it to self-right. The testing video is available on our YouTube channel. I'm not going to show it today so that we can save some time. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with the testing videos, the whole testing video is available on our YouTube channel, and Victoria will share the link in the chat box. All of these features would apply to any product. So I took XT4 as an example here. Of course, everything exactly the same would apply for Frog XT6. It would have same features, same operating envelope. It would self-right and float. The passengers would be protected in an equal way. Last interesting thing and important thing, during medevac transfer, if for whatever reason the unit would end up in water, the water level would be underneath the stretcher. So the stretcher and the injured person would keep floating above the water level and be fully protected until the rescue party comes and takes them to safety. This is an image from Deme and Sal heavy lift vessel. So this gives you an indication of the size, sort of the how do we compare to the size of the vessel, the space on the deck, the stability of the unit when it's hanging from a crane, and basically how it looks in operations. So this is an image that was sent to us by Deme. This is another image from one of Deme's projects. This was taken in France, in Saint-Nazaire offshore wind farm project. They used Frog 6 unit last year on several occasions. So they didn't purchase the unit. They decided to go with the rental. Each time rental was for about a month. And they were using the unit in different operational scenarios. Here you can see it with people have boarded the unit and are waiting to be lifted and to be moved to another location. Wave 4, I mentioned that Jan de Nul is using this product, and they took it on one of their vessels to Taiwan, and also Seaway 7 is using this particular product quite a lot. Wave won a safety award, safety at sea award from Sea Trade's award a couple of years ago. Footprint is much smaller compared to Frog XT4 and Frog XT6. Weight is also much smaller, so this is a lighter product, and operational envelope is slightly lower. With XT4 and XT6, we had up to 4 meters significant wave height. Here we have up to 2 meter significant wave height, but still up to 40 knots of wind. So the 40 knots of wind are staying stable. It also has medevac capacity. The difference, the main difference compared to Frog XT4 and Frog XT6 is that people are standing. So people are not seated down, they're standing. They're still protected by the buoyancy. The same level of protection still stands against lateral impact, vertical impact, immersion, and falling out. All that is still protected. The head is still protected. You can see the curved buoyancy covering the top of their heads. So the level of protection is still the same. Medevac would go across the luggage area, the red area that you can see in the middle, in the center of the unit. So people would still be, the injured person would still be protected when they're being transferred, and in case of the unit ending up in water for whatever reason. This is quite a good product for transfers in ports, for transfers in perhaps protected areas where the weather conditions are more benign compared to open sea, because of the 2 meter significant wave height limit. But it's an extremely versatile product. We have this product used in extreme weather conditions like Yamal LNG project up north in Russia. So it's an extremely resistant, flexible, durable, and safe option for transferring people offshore. This is Wave on Saipem's 7000, so you can get an idea how it looks. You can see that the luggage basket is filled with people's bags, and you can see the position of their hands when they're being transferred, and how the buoyancy is protecting each of the passengers. Again, from another angle, Wave 4 being used on Saipem 7000. This is Wave 4 being on a deck of Fugro Wave Walker at Hinkley Point C. So it gives you an idea of its size when it's on the deck, not being used. So we get then to Stonework. Stonework won LIA Safety Awards award in 2019. So it was ranked the safest work basket in the world. The footprint is quite small, so we were conscious that deck space is always at a premium in any type of operation. Fairly light for a for a work basket, and then it can fit up to 4 workers. So it's quite spacious inside. It can operate in extreme weather conditions, so from minus 20 degrees Celsius to plus 50. It is used in projects like Yamal, in North Sea, and in South North Sea equally. So a very durable and resistant work basket offering very high level of protection, anti-snagging features, providing a safe work space for people performing offshore work at height. And as I said, Victoria will share the link to the full video where Seaway 7 is sharing their feedback on how they use this particular product, and how happy are they with its features, and how its features help them in the operations that they are having offshore. All of these products that I ran through, so Frog XT4, XT6, Wave 4, and Stonework, they're off-the-shelf products, which means that we have them on stock, and if anyone needs them for rental, they're usually available on a couple of days' notice, and for purchase, the lead time is around 5 to 10 days, depending on the time of the year, but they are considered off-the-shelf products. We can make modifications on each of those products depending on the requirement of a particular client or operations. We have made alterations to Stonework, so there is an option called Stonework Maxi, which is has more space inside, can take up more people, and has slightly different spec, but those are then not considered as off-the-shelf products. They're considered as projects, and the lead time is much longer, and the cost structure is, of course, slightly different, but it is possible. So we have modified Stonework and we have modified Wave. Those two products, we did some modifications on them for some clients with a specific operational requirement. This is some of the press clipping on the work basket, so Stonework, and you can see all these images are from Seaway 7 vessels and how they use this particular work basket and the stories. This is available on our website, this press clipping, if anyone is. So again, Seaway 7, the work basket when it's being used, the image on the right, and then the work basket when it's on the deck, to give you an indication of sort of how it fits with everything else on the deck and how much space does it take. All off-the-shelf products come as they are, so they don't need to be assembled. They don't require any particular commissioning. They just need to be unpacked, and they can you can start using them. So there is no any particular preparatory work that needs to be done before you can start transferring people or working at height using our products. Crew and cargo transfer and access during day-to-day operations, they can be done with the products I just ran you through, but they can also be done, and particularly for offshore wind farms where space is at a premium. On a wind turbine, we developed in collaboration with Ørsted and Seaside Davids, we developed a Frog XT2, which you can see on the right-hand side. It is a part of the Frog XT range, so has same or very similar capacity, operational capacity as Frog XT4 and Frog XT6. So offers same level of protection, operates in a similar operating envelope. This one, because it is for only 2 people, doesn't convert to a medevac option, so you cannot actually put a stretcher in it, but it does float self-right, and it offers protection against vertical and lateral impact in an equal way like Frog XT4 and XT6. Here is another view of Frog XT2. So very small footprint, very light product, and then quite high operational envelope. Up to 3.2 meter significant wave height, so much higher than wave, and up to 40 knots of wind, the unit will be stable. And then extremely wide operating envelope in terms of temperature, -40 to +50. Victoria, I think we have an XT2 video that we can show now. Would you mind playing the video, please?
Sorry, Sandra, you dropped out for a minute there. If you could just repeat the last paragraph.
Thank you, Victoria, for playing this video. So this gave you an idea. The footage was, of course, from a testing phase in Spain, but it gave you an idea of how much space people have when they're seated inside the unit. It also gave you an idea on the level of protection that the unit offers. For those of you who might be interested in this particular product, there is a recording of a webinar we had last year, which was specifically on Frog XT2. It's available on our YouTube channel, but perhaps Victoria will be able to share this link with you in the chat box. There are also a range of other webinar recordings on our YouTube channel that cover different products in different operational scenarios. So there are webinars on other products, not just Frog XT2. There is one on Wave and there is one on Stonework. If anyone wants more detailed information, if you are trying to decide which product is the best for your operation, or if you want to let me know or let us know, we can send you the user manual with a more detailed data sheet for each of the products, and then you can easily compare the features between two types of products and make sure that you are making the right choice for your operation. And of course, we can also give you pricing if you are interested to understand the difference in pricing for between products. I'm going to move on. So this is Frog XT2 on one of Ørsted's operations, so you can get an idea of how it fits size-wise, how much space there is, how big is the unit, and how it fits when it's being used. This is again from a testing phase, but it's a good image and it gives quite a good indication of how the unit fits with its size to operation. Finally, we get to Stormpro. So this is a product that is not off-the-shelf product. We don't hold it on stock. We customize it specifically for clients' requirements. The first client that is using this product is Vattenfall. They use it as a work space, so as a workbench and as a toolbox. So you can see that the part of one side of the product can be lowered as a workbench, and it gives you a space to do some work when you are offshore. And the rest of the small and medium-sized tools that inspection and maintenance people would need when they're performing some work offshore. So Vattenfall is the first company that is using this particular type of product. It's a new product that we developed, again, mostly for offshore wind market. It is scalable and completely customizable, so you can tell us, I need a box that has these dimensions because it fits my vessel or my platform, and then it is created for you for your specific needs. So this is not, one more time, this is not an off-the-shelf product, but a very customizable one. We offer operational client support 24/7. So I hope I've managed to convey that all our products have uncompromised safety. We have over 10 years now without a lost time incident, regardless of the market segment. So in offshore wind, in LNG, in offshore oil and gas. We are now over 10 years without a lost time incident. The products that we develop can help you and are helping our clients to increase their operating envelopes and reduce downtime. I did mention rentals, so we offer short, medium, long-term rentals. Long-term rentals are with full servicing included, so it's very hassle-free. BP is one of the companies that use this option in their operations in West Africa and in Caspian. 24/7 technical and operational support. Lots of our service partners, companies that are servicing our units globally, are crane specialists and companies that are servicing cranes as well. So we are trying to offer a completely full circle type of support. And then we share quite a lot of case studies and other types of data as an open source on our website. So quite a lot of material there for anybody who is interested or who needs more information. I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we support operations in over 70 countries on all continents, and we have a wide network of service centers and support partners who are helping make sure that units can be serviced offshore when client needs any type of servicing done on their units. Before I finish, these are the contacts. Before I finish and Reflexmarine is currently working on mooring and anchoring project. And sorry, yes. Okay, sorry about that. What was the last thing that you were able to hear?
I believe you started talking about the new innovation project, but we didn't hear the beginning.
Okay, so Reflexmarine is working on developing mooring and anchoring system for floating offshore wind. We are currently in a process of application for different funding options. The concept has been developed and approved. So this is something that this will be a new product that we will be able to offer hopefully very soon for floating offshore wind farms. And if anyone would like more specific information on that in particular, if you could please send an email to info@reflexmarine, and then I will put you in touch with the project team who is working on this mooring and anchoring system, and they will be able to provide you with more details on that one. That would be it for today. We are on social media as everybody else. Please get in touch. I would say out of all these icons, the most important one is probably our YouTube channel, where quite a lot of video materials that are easy to comprehend, very useful, and very easy to use. So please do go there. Victoria, if we have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you for the presentation, Sandra. We do have 3 questions from the audience. So the first question is, can any model be rented, and what's the minimal rental period for the products?
Yes, any model can be rented.
Yes. Next
minimum
question
rental
was,
period
what
is
complementary
7 days,
methods you would...
but we did have situations where, for example, companies like Maersk or BP would come and ask for a rental just over the weekend, and we always try to do that for clients. So I would say that there is no minimum rental period. The thing that the client should keep in mind is that we count rental days on a gate-to-gate principle. So the moment the unit leaves our warehouse, that is day 1 of the rental. And then when the unit is returned, that is the end date of the rental. What was the next question?
Suggest alongside your products.
As I explained, we support different industries that are operating offshore: oil and gas, LNG, Navy, Coast Guard, offshore wind, offshore civil engineering and construction, so building bridges and things like that. Depending on the industry, different methods of transfer would be recommended. If you are having deep water operations or some operations that is far away from the shore, then yes, a helicopter becomes an important piece of the puzzle because of the speed. But also today with very fast cruiser type vessels, perhaps the risk of using a helicopter can be mitigated by using fast cruiser type vessels. When I say the risk of mitigating the use of helicopters, I'm referring to the statistics where on average there are approximately 20 injuries or fatalities by helicopter every year when helicopter is used as a main method of transferring people. And I said that we have surpassed 10 years without lost time incident. So it's quite a huge difference when you think about it just from a statistical point of view. But I do appreciate the convenience of helicopters. It's fast, it's comfortable. People feel more protected. It also comes down to the perception of people being transferred. And then there are gangways who are extremely suitable when you have to transfer a large number of people. Like if you are having 120 people that need to be transferred from point A to point B. Gangways are also very useful depending on what type of vessel you are having. So if you have a DP2 or DP3 vessel that has a large deck space where you can have the luxury, let me put it that way, of having a gangway at all times, then it's a very convenient and considerably safe way of moving people. But if you are trying to be mindful of the deck space that you use, or if you don't have a large enough vessel, then gangway has some downsides from that perspective, because not every company can afford that level of investment for some project. So then the marine crane transfer would become the best substitute. I mentioned that BP does long-term rentals with full servicing. They are also a company that uses our product as a substitute or a complementary method when they're using Ampleman to make sure that their operating envelope is as long as possible and that the downtime is as little as possible. So in Caspian, they're using Ampleman, but at the same time, they're using our Frog XD range for 4 and 10 people because they want to make sure that they can keep transferring people even when Ampleman has to be shut down because the weather conditions are too rough, when there is low visibility, or when they need to transfer a small number of people and it makes no sense for them to use Ampleman to transfer only 5 people. So they use both methods equally, in equal measure, because they're trying to make sure that they are using the time during the day in the most efficient way. if that makes sense.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. So there's one more question. That's all right. The question is, we are preparing for a project in Asia. What sort of support can you offer in case of product breakdown? How long would it take to fix the unit?
In case of product breakdown, well, it depends on whether the unit was bought or whether the unit was rented. If the unit was rented, usually we can offer a replacement within 24 hours. This doesn't have to mean that we can have the unit in India or in Asia in 24 hours. But we do have in a lot of locations in the world, we have an off-site stock. So we currently have stock in Asia, we have stock in Australia, we have stock in Europe, and we have stock in Middle East. What does that mean? It means that we have certain types of units which are used for rental, and they are ready to be dispatched on a day's notice. So if you say we had your product and something broke down, but we don't want to stop with operations and we need something tomorrow, chances are we are going to be able to dispatch something within 24 hours from one of those locations that can be with you in the shortest possible period of time. If the breakdown isn't serious that the unit has to be replaced, then we can send a servicing technician that can be with you. Again, if it's an emergency, they can be with you within 24 hours. And they can service the unit both offshore and onshore. So we had situations where the technician would go onshore, they would be transferred by a supply vessel to the location where the transfer is being performed and the unit needed some part change or some servicing that had to be done in an urgent way. So we are trying to give that level of support to our clients regardless of the location where they are. We have 5 service centers in Asia. 3 of them are approved service partners, which means that they can hold stock. So they have consignment rental units. 2 of them have trained technicians, but they don't hold stock. And we have 3 locations in Australia. We have 1 location in India. We have 5 locations in the Middle East. We have over 10 locations in Europe. So it offers quite a good level of support and gives us a lot of flexibility to support you on a day's notice, if that answers the question.
Much, Sandra, for your answers and for the whole presentation. We don't have any more questions from the audience at this point. But again, if anyone does have any more questions, please feel free to email us at info@reflexmarine.com. And I think that's everything for today. Thank you again, Sandra. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And I hope to see you on the next webinar next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.